Danny.
Oh, God.
All right, we are live on Facebook for now. We have Dania and Irwin here. We're going to be talking adoption and their incredible story. And we hope you enjoy the show. Stay for the second half because we're going to be talking breast cancer survivors and dragon boat racing. It's going to be a very interesting show. I'm looking forward to it. We'll be on in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
From the Dormaple Weather Center, it'll get clouder as we look to the evening with a good chance of flurries and
Better
southeast. We'll stay put at -10 with wind chill. Mainly cloudy skies for Monday with a high of +3. More clouds for Tuesday, a 60% chance of flurries and a high of -6.
And yeah, you'll see, I don't know if you mentioned the on, well, you know the on air, but when that goes on air, that means they could hear us because we're live.
Once again, CJAD 800 listeners step up. It is a check made out to the Royal Canadian Legion for $14,125.62. This time you came through for the LaSalle Legion to help our vets.
I'm on life.
We thank all those who donated.
I can't
Find
get
out
your
you can help the Royal Canadian Legion at legion.ca. The voice of the community. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Here we go.
Live Fun Rehearsed on CJAD 800. Brought to you by Marco Vendramin.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed, a show about the ins and outs of family life. So your life isn't going exactly as planned? Well, you're not alone, and we're here to help out. My name is Matt Del Vecchio, specializing in free retirement home search and senior transition support.
And I'm Corey Sirota, clinical social worker and psychotherapist, specializing in grief and loss.
Corey, we have a great show planned today, don't we? Coming up on the first half, we're talking adoption, the challenges and the joy of this truly life unrehearsed topic. And we also have a very special couple in studio with us to talk about their heartwarming story of adoption. In fact, multiple adoptions, and not necessarily in the traditional sense. So that's coming up on the first half, Corey. And, did you get your winter tires on this week? As all of a sudden winter is here
Thankfully,
with a
like
snap
you
of a
blink
finger.
an eye, yeah, you blink an eye, and thankfully I did, but really just under the wire. By accident, someone called and I said, okay, I better get my act together, and I did, and man, am I happy.
Yeah, it's just all of a sudden we're here. I got mine on this week. It was funny. I was taking, sometimes I talk about Zola, my 125-pound Great Dane, so we went out for a walk yesterday, or when the first snowfall came, and this big dog was doing the little tiptoe dance on the snow.
You don't have the little booties for them? I don't know.
Can't do that with a big dog like that. The poor dog
Okay,
will
the big
embarrass
booties.
Yeah, so winter is here. Hopefully everyone's getting their tires on, if not already, but hopefully very, very soon. And Corey, I have to mention, you are always on the go. You're heading to Fredericton this week, aren't you?
I am, to actually do some work with the Canadian Armed Forces. I'm going to be doing a full-day grief education workshop. So getting ready for that, and very concerned about what the weather's going to be like in Fredericton.
There will be more snow there. That's coming from someone who lived in Moncton. So yes, they get their share. What do we have coming up on the second half, Corey?
So on the second half of this show, we have two very special ladies who are actually breast cancer survivors, and they found a way to make an impact through dragon boat racing. Yeah, you heard it, dragon boat racing. You'll hear how and why after the 4:30 news.
Yeah, and also an amazing story. Can't wait to get to that. So let's get started, Corey. When we talk about adoption, usually we think of perhaps people that cannot have children biologically. However, that's not always the case. Well, Dania was a single mother, and she decided to adopt a second child from overseas. So she went and did that. Then she met Irwin. Irwin, who already was a father of 4, when they married, actually adopted Dania's 2 daughters. And today's show is not just about adoption, but it's about love, connection, and acceptance. We're very, very fortunate to have in studio Dania and Irwin. Welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Glad to be here.
I can't wait to get more details of this fascinating story. Dania, why don't we start with you? You already had a child. What made you to decide to have another child through adoption?
Well, my sister and I lost our parents very young. I was 30, my sister was 27. And I realized how important we were to each other. And Rebecca, my oldest daughter, didn't have her father in her life. And I really wanted her to have a sibling. And I traveled to China for many years for business. And I knew that Quebec was actually the biggest, I don't know if they still are, adoption of Chinese girls. And so I decided to go forward with that so she could have a sister.
So important and really lovely for your children and for you. It's a big process, though. Can you talk a little bit about what that entails?
Yeah, well, I did it so many years ago, so today I know that it's different and a much longer process. Really what it entailed at the time, I was lucky enough that they accepted single mothers. Soon after I adopted, they did no longer accepted it. Single parents, not only single mothers. So it was just a series of questionnaires with my doctor, Rebecca's school. We had to go with a social worker who had to ask us questions. You have to go to court in Quebec that they could say, yes, you're allowed to adopt a baby. And then the whole file had to be translated to Chinese. And at that time, the wait time was about a year. I heard about a year later that they had a baby for me. Today, I believe it's 4 to 5 years. Yeah.
It's interesting. My sister also adopted from China.
Okay.
And she has beautiful Sammy Lee, who is now 17 years old.
Wow.
So that was almost 17 years ago, and just incredible story. Yeah. And you're right. The process was a little easier
easier.
And so for those and the laws and regulations are changing, not just in Canada but right across the country. But
in China too.
And right
because
across.
They started in these areas. They started educating the people about, first of all they allow second. I don't know if they allow a third birth now because they started realizing they were losing all these girls.
That's right. So
right.
It can get.
So there was education on their part as well.
And all throughout, Russia's even changed theirs as well. And so that being said, for potential parents that are considering the adoption process right now, you had to go through this. So what would you suggest just to get started?
Well, I used an agency, so that made it a lot easier because they put everything together for us and they knew the process and they knew the ins and outs and the direction. So I think an agency probably, especially for overseas, I don't know about domestic. So especially for overseas, I would recommend that you go through an agency that knows the process. And even at that, I heard today it's even difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
That's Dania and Irwin. They're talking about adoption. Yours, mine, ours. There's a whole host of adoptions going on here. And so we're very grateful for them to be here and share this story with us. Do you know much about local versus, why did you decide overseas versus local? I think at the time I was thinking that I really wanted to make sure that Rebecca had a sister. Not that a sister and brother couldn't be close, but because of my own experience with my sister and 2 girls, that was important to me, and I knew that was pretty much taken for granted to adopt from China. And I had gone to Halifax to visit a friend, and when I told her I was thinking about it, she invited her daughter's best friend over who was adopted from China, and it just got the ball rolling. It just made so much sense. So that's when I just started the whole process.
It's interesting. I was talking to a good friend of mine this week who did the adoption process in Quebec.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, and I'm not an adoption expert, but it is a lot longer process. They were averaging 6 to 7 years here in Quebec. And I don't know if this is still the case. I think it is. In Quebec, the birth mother has a 30-day grace period. And if she wants the baby back within those first 30 days, they have the right to get it back. And this is a bit of a turnoff, if I should say, or a concern with a lot of local adoptions if you have to do that.
But if you really, really want an infant, you're not going to get an infant from overseas, right? Julie was 14 months old, right? So you're not going to get an infant. So if that is something really important to you, then that might help you make the decision as well. Right.
Yeah. So you adopted Julie. Mm-hmm. You already had Rebecca. In comes Irwin. Da, 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 da. And,
I'm on my horse, yes.
Yeah. Hair blowing in the wind.
Right.
And you have a discussion, and you meet, you marry, and you adopt.
Yes, I mean, to me it was really a no-brainer. I met Dania about 8 or 9 months after she actually had adopted Julie. and it was, I guess, love at first sight.
It was, and you adopted.
I
right off the
adopted
bat,
you.
and you know what? We're approaching 4:15, so we're going to head out to traffic. But
Okay.
Irwin, we're going to bring you right back into this because there is a real special story about Dania's oldest daughter. Actually asking you, Irwin, to
Yeah.
adopt her. And what's even more special is how she asked you. This is
Yes.
an incredible story. But first, let's head to the CJD Traffic Center with an update from Lauren Glazer. Good. That was good. You got we got your voice in
I
at least in the
said I
minute.
have to. I said I
I
have
know.
to. I have to get your voice in there.
I don't think I'm on.
No, I'm not on it. I know I'm not.
I don't know why.
So you know what? You share this one.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I always have trouble sharing it. Even Lori.
I usually don't, and that's why I'm surprised. I go to Facebook, I click on Life and Reverse it.
Yeah.
So there we go.
If you
Okay,
don't mind, Carol's been
Dania, you're going to share this one. A close up of you.
Oh,
But explain to everyone.
Yeah.
You put makeup on today.
I did. And it's Sunday, so because I knew you were going to be doing this.
Irwin, you can share that too.
I put the same makeup on every day, so I'm fine with that.
Here's our guests for the second half. Carol and Rochelle, can't wait to have you.
So we're going to come back. I'm going to welcome everyone. We're going to come back to that question, and you can tell your story. And if you want to even just tell the first part of it, and then you can read that last part.
Okay,
Good thing you don't ask me to read it because
okay,
I start crying.
okay.
You both do, and that's okay. This last, what was the last thing? It's the last, this, you know, you could describe this
It's
and
on
then
one
read
page
that.
Okay, it is on one page.
Really?
Sorry, who's going to,
No.
So,
to
I'm
read?
gonna
Is it going to be us that's going to read, or
I
Irwin's
don't
going
Matt
to
did
read?
because I think Matt has 2 pages. I don't think you have the whole poem there.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
Will you adopt me,
yeah.
please?
Oh.
Well, I know what
Okay,
I
and then we'll go from there to
Sorry,
more
just
discussions
to
around-
clarify, are you going to read the whole thing?
No, the
No,
whole
I
thing,
think,
the other thing is
yeah, I
very
think
long.
we'll post the whole thing, but
I
just
read it.
he'll describe it, and then that
Describe,
last
and then you go to
paragraph.
the last part.
And we'll,
Okay,
then we'll talk, and
perfect.
then what the other pieces I wanted were, because I think it's important, your process of adopting locally, when you have to put it in paper and that you know, didn't you have to, in order to adopt Rebecca?
No, because she was already over 18.
Oh, okay. Well, but I can ask that. Matt can ask
Well,
that.
yeah.
And Julie, there was no father, so you didn't have to do that.
So actually, I will be asking you about the process because I find it intriguing.
Yeah.
Don't know the answer.
Well, I mean,
and
okay.
I'm going to wait to hear the
Yeah.
answer, but I think
And
a lot
then
of people.
also, I'd love for you to talk about. I know there was a support group, right? There, you have a support. You did at one
There
point.
was people. There's a huge group that we used to go to of families that have adopted from China. We used to go to some of the until I came home one day and I said to him, "Should we adopt another baby?" And he was like, "We're never going to those things."
It's a good story.
I asked her, with which husband?
Yeah.
Because to me, adopting Rebecca and Julie means I'm now father to 6.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
5 girls.
Wow. So we're going to have some time, eh? We have
Yeah,
about
so we
like
can
7
ask
or
them
8 minutes.
So we can ask
could-
about the group,
We
and
can extend,
Yeah.
and just for, I don't know if you can see
We
that
can-
clock
we-
or that clock, but around
I
4:26,
see the clock.
27,
Yeah.
27
Yeah.
max, we're going to be thanking you,
Okay.
and then we got to do a couple teasers because we
Alright.
got to be out by 4:28.
That's all.
Okay.
so would they be? We can ask about the kids, how they feel about it. Although you're sort of speaking for them. Matt, you or I. If you ask more about the process, I'll ask about the kids, how the kids. Because whatever. Oh, you know what? I can also ask you, when did you tell her she was adopted?
We always talk about it.
Okay, but
That's a general topic. That
Well,
I think
there
a
was
lot of
one
people
night
are
at the
interested
dinner table where she found out that Julie and her and Rebecca don't have the same father. That we didn't know Irwin when I adopted her. She was very traditional Jewish family.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And she
Oh, that-
asked Rebecca, "Do you also have 2 mothers? Do you also have mommy and a birth mother?" Yeah.
Yeah.
But we always talked about it.
Lindsay's, when she walked out of Lindsay's house.
But that's nothing to do with the.
Well, that's when she found out. She figured
You know,
out she
Barbara
started
Walters
figuring it out.
once said about her daughter that she told her daughter she was born in her heart. So when she said to me that night, "I kind of wish I was born in your stomach too," I used Barbara Walters' line. I said, yeah, but you were born in my
Can you
heart.
say that, please,
Yeah.
on radio?
Yeah.
You were born in my
So I'll
heart.
That's a
ask
good
how she
line.
felt
Yeah,
about it.
it was
You
so
told the story,
beautiful.
but yeah.
And I
Really?
remember when she asked me,
I was
I
thinking
wish I
like
was
things
born
to
in
tell
your
us
stomach
silly
like
things
Rebecca. I
she
remembered
got
that line. And
No, we have mirrors. now.
anyway, today she's 18. She
I don't
could
like
care less what I
sarcasm.
say.
I'm not-
So much for all that, eh?
Here we go.
Good money.
Okay,
Here we- You're
oh,
coming
I
on
have,
it,
to, I have
Corey.
to come back. Oh yeah, I always forget that. Welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. I'm Corey Sirota with my co-host Matt Del Vecchio, and we are talking about adoption with Dania and Irwin. Dania was a single mom, adopted a second daughter, Julie, and then Irwin came into their lives, and although he was already a father of 4, he too adopted Julie, but then he adopted, well, did he adopt Rebecca? Did Rebecca adopt him? That's the
I think it was a
question.
kind of a mutual agreement. Came to a mutual agreement on that one. She, Rebecca, was at that time living overseas, as she is now.
And how old was she at that time?
At that time, she was 26.
And you had known Rebecca for how long?
Since Rebecca was 12.
Okay, 14 years.
So Rebecca was 12, almost turning 13. She was 13 when Daniel and I got married, but was 12 when I first met her.
Okay.
Julie was only 2.5 when I first met Julie.
So you had adopted Julie and Rebecca 14
Re-
years later.
14 years later.
So tell us about that.
Well, when I first adopted Julie, we waited. Julie was a little bit older. She was already in elementary school. She came home one day and with some forms from school, and it said, "Well, apparently I don't have a father." So we said, "Okay, we were delaying this because at that time I wanted to adopt Rebecca and Julie at the same time, and Rebecca wasn't sure she was getting close to the age of 18." So we said, "Fine." I said, "I'm not going to wait any longer." We went right to court. We adopted Julie, and everything was fine. Rebecca's out in the world, graduated and traveling, living in, I think she was in New Zealand at the time. And I came home one night from a football game, and there was Rebecca online, and she had written me this whole poem. Usually she writes me these rants, things, and she reads them all to me. And Rebecca's a professional writer, so her writing is marvelous. And basically she asked me then if I would do it legally and adopt her, and I turned around to Dania, and I guess in light of being in the football game, I raised my arms like a touchdown, and I said, "Muzzle tov, it's a girl."
He did.
and I said, "Fine, we'll start the process right away." I was thrilled, and she was coming home a few months later for our son's wedding, so we said, "I'll get the process going, and when you're home, we'll go to court and get it done."
You're listening to Life Unrehearsed. That's Dania and Irwin telling us their really special story. And Irwin, we need to just in the way Rebecca asked you, I find so intriguing. Can you share that with us?
Okay, well, it's a very long poem, but like we said, maybe I'll just read the last.
So she wrote you a poem that you weren't expecting.
I was not expecting a poem at all. I was not even expecting to be asked. I figure we were fine. Rebecca was my daughter, legally or not legally. I mean, and when you do an adult adoption, actually, my lawyer told me, he said, in 24 years of doing family law, it's been only the second time she's ever done an adult adoption.
Incredible.
So and actually, this poem was part of the affidavit that went into the judge as well.
And what day was it given to you?
It was just before Father's Day.
It's a Father's Day poem. Okay,
Yeah.
can you give us a quick snapshot and
Sure, I'll read you the last paragraph where she gets to the nitty-gritty kind of thing. She says, "Now I know this year's rant isn't as sappy as I usually grant, but that's because I have other plans. A man like you is one in a million, a father as sweet and kind as you even rarer than that. So now I have only one question left to ask. Can we make it official? Will you be my dad? A bit of paperwork is all we need, but it would be such an honor if you would adopt me, please."
Every time.
And we took the Kleenex with us to court as well. By the way.
I had a box.
Well, I got got to tell you, Corey sent me that poem just the other day, and I had the Kleenex, and just, Rebecca, if you're listening, super. And Irwin, by the way, I'd like you to adopt me too after reading that poem. Yeah.
I'm up to 6 now. I'm done.
So let's talk about the kids. How did they feel about? Well, we now know how Rebecca felt about the adoption. How did Julie feel about the adoption? When did you tell her? Did you tell her how?
Well, I always talked about with her. We talked about, that she had a birth mother even when she was little, and I remember going to China on business, coming back with a doll that, I said, look, this doll looks like you. She goes, that doll doesn't look like me. Like, it was, there was always discussions. But there was one night at the dinner table when she found out that, that Irwin wasn't in our lives when I adopted her, that her and Rebecca actually have a different father, that Rebecca has a biological father. And then the conversation came out that, that Rebecca was, like I gave birth to Rebecca. And so she looked at me and she said, oh, I kind of wish that I was born in your stomach like Rebecca. And I remember Barbara Walters once saying, I said, yes, Julie, but you were born in my heart. And so that was like, I was very proud of myself.
Because that was like on the spot.
That was a really good answer.
Like
Yeah.
Barbara
She
Walters.
was thinking like, wow, this is not a very common family, I don't think.
Oh, such wonderful stories, and adoption does come with its challenges. This is a feel-good story. There are challenging adoptions, and you went through an agency.
Yeah.
We'd like to get your recommendation on that, but it is highly encouraged because, like we mentioned before, the regulations and laws have changed. We're actually getting texts right now just to have your guard up, make sure you ask your questions.
Yeah.
And so, first of all, thank you so much, Dania and Irwin. We haven't laughed like this, Corey, in a long, long time on a wonderful story. If you don't mind sharing, could you recommend an agency or two that people
Well, I
can talk
used
to?
at the time an agency called Enfants du Monde. Of course, I'm going back 18 years, but they still exist. And I know a lot of people have used them, so that's what they're called, Enfants du Monde.
All right, Enfants du Monde.
Yeah.
Right, and of course in Montreal, Batois Youth and Family Services does have an adoption department, but again, really challenging, long wait lists, etc. But you can certainly explore that.
Well, thank you very much.
Oh.
Corey, what do we have on the second half?
Coming up, wow, and more wow. Wait till you hear about how 2 breast cancer survivors are making a difference through dragon boat racing. That's coming up after the 4:30 news.
Very good. Nice.
All
Very
right.
good.
Now we change seats.
Super.
Yeah.
All right.
You're watching the quick change here, Facebook.
And we get to say goodbye. Irwin and Dania, thank you.
Bye, thank
was
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for letting us
Quite
tell our
incredible.
story.
It was nice. Good to share.
So
All right.
good, so
Feel
encouraging.
feel free for everyone to share this nice story.
Yes, we will.
Absolutely.